Things have officially spiraled from worrisome to downright alarming for Yankees faithful. The latest bombshell report to hit the news cycle has ignited the Bronx like a 5-alarm inferno. It's not the kind of headline fans were hoping to see with the trade deadline looming, but it's precisely the kind of revelation that exposes just how fragile and uncertain this Yankees squad has become. According to high-level insiders, the Yankees are technically buyers at the deadline, but nowhere near the aggressive powerhouse many expected when the team sat comfortably atop the division earlier this season. That early dominance? A fading memory. What remains is a front office that appears hesitant, risk-averse, and conflicted about whether to go all in or hold back. And that indecision is sending an unmistakably demoralizing message, not just to the fans, but to the players inside the clubhouse. For decades, the New York Yankees built their identity on dominance, on a relentless pursuit of elite talent, and an uncompromising will to plug every gap. Come July, the Yankees of old didn't hesitate. If the rotation was shaky, they acquired an ace. If the bullpen wobbled, they added flamethrowers without blinking. That was the mindset. That was the gold standard. But recently, that killer instinct seems to have dulled. Under Brian Cashman's leadership, the front office has taken a far more measured, passive approach. Content with low-impact deals while true contenders swing for the fences. It's a pattern, and it's playing out again this year. And fans have every right to be frustrated, even outraged. Let's take stock of the Yankees' moves thus far. Ryan McMahon was acquired to bolster third base, and while he flashed some promise with a 2-run double in his debut, it's hardly a blockbuster. Ahmed Rosario brings positional versatility, capable of manning both the infield and outfield, but again, these are depth bandage acquisitions, not needle movers. They won't alter the postseason landscape or strike fear into rival front offices. These are setup moves, typically precursors to a major splash. But then came John Heyman's report, and suddenly it feels like that splash may never come. If the Yankees halt operations here, if these marginal additions represent the full extent of their trade activity, then we're likely staring down the barrel of yet another early postseason collapse. And at the heart of this impending unraveling? Pitching. Both the rotation and the bullpen have been glaring weak points. Let's call it what it is. The starting staff has underperformed, and the bullpen has been in a state of total disarray. Over their last 85 innings, the bullpen has surrendered 68 earned runs, a grotesque 7.20 ERA. That's not just below average. That's catastrophic. That's the kind of bullpen performance that gets you sent packing in the wildcard round, regardless of how potent your offense is. And it only gets worse on closer inspection. Devin Williams has been the lone reliable arm, but he can't carry the weight of an entire relief corps. Luke Weaver, once the unexpected postseason hero, has regressed beyond recognition since his return from the IL. His command is erratic, velocity has dipped, and his breaking pitches have lost bite. What used to be sharp, deceptive stuff now floats across the heart of the plate, and opposing batters are feasting. Tim Hill, who brought stability last year, now looks lost. Ian Hamilton has lost his edge. And Jonathan Loaisiga? Once a dominant force in the late innings, now a shell of his former self. With every series, the bullpen bleeds more runs, sabotages more leads, and raises more red flags. Injuries, of course, have taken their toll, but excuses don't fly when you're built to contend. Championship-caliber teams don't sit idly by while their bullpen hemorrhages games. And then there's Luke Weaver. His decline isn't just disappointing, it's unusable in high-leverage situations. In his last 7 appearances, Weaver has logged a 4.32 ERA over 8 innings, surrendering 4 earned runs and 3 walks. Expand that to his last 15 outings, and the numbers are damning. 11 earned runs, 13 hits, 5 walks. His ERA in that stretch, a ghastly 6.46. If Brian Cashman believes this current group of relievers is October ready, then something has gone terribly awry in the internal evaluation process. So what's the next move? Apparently the Yankees are eyeing Rockies right-hander Jake Bird. At first glance, his season stats, a 4.05 ERA, 3.09 FIP, and 26.7% strikeout rate, look solid. But peel back the layers and the red flags are undeniable. Over his last 7 appearances, Bird's ERA is a staggering 16.88, giving up 10 earned runs in a brief span. Widen the lens to his last 15 games, and he's sporting a 9.64 ERA with 26 hits and 15 earned runs allowed. So why the interest? Simple. He's an analytics darling. Spin rate, pitch shape, release mechanics, they all sparkle on the spreadsheets. And this right here is the crux of the Yankees' ongoing crisis. The front office appears enthralled by the idea of uncovering undervalued gems. Players who excel on spreadsheets even as they falter under the bright lights of live competition. It's the same logic that led them to target Rosario. Solid splits against left-handers, and McMahon, glowing defensive metrics. But at some point, this game is played on dirt, not data. Analytics are a resource, not a remedy. And this team doesn't need another project. It needs production. Now. The Yankees are operating like a franchise obsessed with being the cleverest voice in the room, rather than the most dominant force on the diamond. Meanwhile, the rest of the league is eyeing proven elite-level arms. Names like Ryan Helsley, Emmanuel Claus, Mason Miller, John Durant, and David Bednar are swirling in trade circles. These aren't maybes. These are certified closers, shutdown specialists who could instantly revitalize the Yankees' crumbling bullpen. But to land those types of arms, it's going to cost you. Real assets, blue-chip prospects. And that brings us to the defining question. Is this front office prepared to pay the price? Because if the Yankees are serious about competing in October, timid moves won't cut it. Pairing someone like Helsley or Clace with Devin Williams would give New York a devastating 1-2 punch, the kind of bullpen backbone that wins playoff series. Fans would welcome that kind of power move with open arms. These are pitchers who bring not just velocity, but passion, presence, and poise. Everything this bullpen has lacked in crunch time, but acquisitions like that require guts, vision, boldness, and right now it's unclear whether Brian Cashman and his regime still possess any of those traits. Sure, the Yankees front office has made savvy deadline deals before, but they've also made too many that looked good on paper and crumbled when it mattered most. This deadline isn't just another calendar date, it's a litmus test, a moment of truth. This roster, it's good enough to get into October, but without reinforcements, it's not built to survive it. Another wildcard flameout or ALDS disappointment would be a disaster, especially for a franchise with this kind of legacy, with a fan base this devoted, and with a payroll this monumental. If the Yankees enter October with no legitimate third starter behind Carlos Rodon, and without fortifying the relief corps behind Devin Williams, they're not just risking another early exit. They're guaranteeing it. And that's what makes this entire situation so exasperating. The pieces are on the board, the needs are glaring, the trade targets are obvious, but the clock is ticking. And the front office's next move will reveal everything. Will they act decisively or once again play it safe? Because if they let another deadline slip by without making meaningful upgrades, they'll be squandering yet another year of elite talent, and fans are tired of the rerun. And it's not just about missed opportunities, it's about the message it sends inside the locker room. When players see the front office standing idle in the face of glaring needs, it eats away at morale. veterans begin to question leadership. Young players start doubting the organization's commitment to winning. The ripple effect is real. Look at any recent World Series winner, and you'll find one constant: a front office that wasn't afraid to pull the trigger when the moment demanded it. The 2021 Braves, the 2022 Phillies, they weren't passive. They saw windows and they charged through them. Meanwhile, the Yankees feel stuck in a cycle of almost. Almost good enough. Almost deep enough. Almost championship ready. But almost doesn't win rings. And it certainly doesn't satisfy a fan base that hasn't seen a World Series appearance since 2009. That's 16 years. An entire generation has grown up watching other teams build dynasties while the Yankees chase their own shadow. This isn't the Yankee way. At least it didn't used to be. But wait, there may be another twist brewing. In a developing story, sources close to the organization suggest that Aaron Boone, the team's longtime manager, has been relieved of his duties. Though no official statement has yet confirmed the dismissal, the buzz is rapidly gaining steam. The implications? Massive. Boone's tenure, which began in 2018, has been marked by both promising highs and agonizing lows. He led the team to consistent playoff appearances and even guided them to an AL pennant. But recent seasons have been clouded by inconsistency, questionable in-game decisions, and growing tension among players and fans alike. If Boone is truly out, it may signal the beginning of a sweeping shakeup, a last-ditch attempt by the Yankees front office to breathe life into a team teetering on collapse. But it also opens up new questions. Who steps in next? Whispers are intensifying around the Bronx this week, and the noise is only growing more deafening. According to a source embedded within the Yankees' inner circle, manager Aaron Boone has allegedly reached a breaking point with catcher Austin Wells. No public statements, no explosive pressers, just private, behind-the-scenes frustration. Word is Boone no longer wants Wells on this roster. Yes, the same Austin Wells once heralded as a cornerstone of the Yankees' future may now be skating on thin ice. If true, this signals a seismic shift in the organization's perception of its young core. Boone, long known for shielding his players in the media, is reportedly running out of patience, and fast. Is it performance? Attitude? A lack of chemistry in the clubhouse? No one's confirming specifics, but recent body language between Boone and Wells has set off alarm bells among fans and insiders alike. This kind of tension doesn't manifest from thin air. Something's clearly brewing, and it may soon boil over. The Yankees are in full win-now mode, and Boone seemingly no longer views Wells as part of that immediate blueprint. What makes this even more fascinating is how abruptly the narrative has shifted. Not long ago, Wells was celebrated as an exciting young prospect, a left-handed bat with lineup balancing potential and the promise of big league level catching. Now, the relationship feels ice cold. Boone's reported dissatisfaction isn't solely about stats. Insiders suggest it's about game management failures, missed signals, and a lack of commanding presence behind the plate. In a clubhouse laser-focused on a return to World Series contention, those deficiencies are magnified. Word circulating internally is that Boone has voiced concerns about Wells' preparation, defensive reliability, and even his demeanor during high-leverage moments. If accurate, this transcends a routine slump. This is a fracture in trust. Boone needs a field general behind the plate, someone he believes in. And right now, Wells might not fit that mold. That begs the question, if Boone has moved on from Wells, where does the catcher go from here? A demotion? A trade? Speculation is running rampant, and fans are beginning to wonder if the Austin Wells chapter in New York has already closed. Tensions like these aren't unfamiliar in Yankees lore, but the timing couldn't be worse. With the AL East as ruthless as ever, and October dreams hanging in the balance, the last thing this team needs is a clubhouse fracture. And make no mistake, a manager-player rift, even if it's quiet, is still a distraction. Several beat writers have hinted at noticeable changes in Wells' demeanor. Confidence fading, tighter swings, sloppier pitch framing. It could all be interconnected. Boone hasn't made anything public, but his recent post-game comments, lines like, "We need sharper execution," or "We must play more intelligent baseball," sound less like cliché coach speak and more like thinly veiled jabs. Are they directed at Wells? Many fans believe so. If Boone's mind is truly made up, we may be on the verge of a roster shakeup. His relationships with players are typically grounded in loyalty and mutual respect, so for such visible disconnect to emerge, it speaks volumes. Something is broken, and Boone may already be emotionally detached. Of course, parsing the Yankees' internal dynamics is never easy. The organization is notoriously guarded, and Boone excels at sidestepping media landmines. But in this case, the silence is thunderous. There's been no public vote of confidence for Wells, no reaffirmation of belief. That alone raises suspicions. If Boone still had faith in his young catcher, wouldn't he have quelled the rumors by now? Instead, we're seeing vague platitudes and an uptick in playing time for other catchers during pivotal games. Coincidence? Highly unlikely. Boone may not be spelling it out, but his actions are speaking volumes. When a rookie is quietly phased out in favor of grizzled vets, especially during a playoff hunt, it's a clear indicator of diminishing trust from leadership. Every passing day, the writing becomes more visible on the wall. Perhaps Boone is simply done waiting for Wells to rise to the occasion. Perhaps he's already moved on mentally. Either way, the situation is anything but resolved. And in the pressure cooker of New York baseball, these things never stay hidden for long. Now, insiders are openly suggesting that Wells could be used as trade leverage, sooner rather than later. With the deadline rapidly approaching, calls are being made, and the Yankees know they can't afford to squander strategic opportunities. If Boone has indeed lost faith, there's little sense in keeping Wells in a backup role. His future in pinstripes is hanging by a thread and the clock is ticking. And with multiple clubs reportedly in pursuit of catching reinforcements, Austin Wells could soon become the pivotal bargaining chip the Yankees use to acquire a high-impact arm or a crucial bat for the postseason push. While the front office won't acknowledge it publicly, you can bet internal conversations have already begun. Boone's rumored discontent might be the spark that accelerates a deal. Because if the manager has already lost confidence in a player, it's only a matter of time before the organization acts accordingly. Yes, Wells still possesses upside, but potential doesn't win pennants. Boone is laser-focused on October. He craves grit. He demands consistency. And right now it sounds like he believes Wells offers neither. That's a harsh reality for fans of the young backstop. But if the whispers hold merit, his tenure in pinstripes could end much sooner than anyone imagined. Then comes the deeper ripple. How does the rest of the team interpret this storm? Catchers are the emotional and strategic nucleus of a pitching staff. If there's even a faint fracture between the manager and his primary catcher, the entire rhythm of the battery gets disrupted. Communication falters. Chemistry erodes. And if Boone is genuinely pulling away from Wells, the shockwaves could reverberate throughout the locker room. Veteran hurlers like Garrett Cole won't ignore it. In fact, murmurs have already surfaced suggesting Wells hasn't fully gelled with portions of the staff. A red flag in any clubhouse, let alone one chasing a championship. Boone, fiercely protective of clubhouse integrity, has never been afraid to make tough decisions when the team's flow is compromised. No matter how young or hyped a player may be, if he's not a fit, he's out. That's the Yankees' way. A franchise forged in legacy and fueled by expectation. If Boone is advocating for change, it's likely because he sees a deeper, more systemic concern that the public doesn't. Some fans are already defending Wells, pointing to his raw power, his rare left-handed bat, and the flashes of promise he's shown. They argue it's far too early to give up on a player at such a demanding position. And they're not wrong. Catching is arguably the most taxing role in baseball. Balancing pitch calling, pitcher psychology, defensive execution, and still managing to swing a respectable bat? That's a monumental ask. But Boone's not managing for 2027. He's managing for right now, under the spotlight, under pressure, and with every move scrutinized. If he's determined Wells isn't ready, mentally, physically, or emotionally, it's hard to fault him for wanting someone he can count on. That debate is sparking plenty of noise across the fan base, but inside the dugout, the decision may already be set in stone. And that's what makes this story so explosive. It doesn't just hint at a lineup shuffle, it implies a philosophical shift. The Yankees may be on the verge of pulling the plug. Fast. Before we go further, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us keep you updated on everything Yankees. But there's a broader concern too. What does this say about how the Yankees treat their prospects? If Boone is this quick to sour on one of the organization's most hyped young catchers, what message does that send to the rest of the farm system? Is this a wake-up call to accelerate development, or does it expose deeper issues within the Yankees' player pipeline? For years, critics have accused the Yankees of overhyping their homegrown talent, only to ship them off or watch them flame out. And if Wells becomes another cautionary tale, it might further cement that damning narrative. In fact, Boone's stance, intentional or not, might be highlighting an internal frustration with how unrefined some prospects arrive at the major league level. Maybe he's drawing a line in the sand. He wants polish, not potential. And if that's the new standard, expect more young players to feel the heat. Because Boone isn't just managing a team, he's setting a tone. If Wells can't meet that tone, the fallout could be far more widespread than anyone anticipated. Still, let's keep one foot grounded. At the end of the day, these are rumors, whispers, and a media frenzy. The Yankees haven't gone on record. Boone hasn't named names. Wells hasn't spoken out. It's entirely possible that this is being blown out of proportion. Just a few shaky outings, a handful of awkward interactions, and suddenly the rumor mill spins into overdrive. That's New York. That's baseball. But where there's this much smoke, there's usually something smoldering beneath the surface. Maybe it's not Boone demanding Wells be dealt, but even a strained relationship between manager and catcher can quietly alter a player's trajectory. And if Boone has privately lost faith, history tells us the front office won't be far behind. We've seen it before. We'll see it again.